we're going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers.
Nickel 6-1 Tango, small J, oh, got it!
With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin.
Dude, this is a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing! It's rotating.
We have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Swamp Gas Podcast, the only show that thinks that Dogman and Bigfoot should do a buddy comedy together. I'm Bruce. This is Don. How you been, buddy?
What's up, man? How you been?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What's new in your neck of the woods?
Same old thing, man. It got cold today. Holy crap.
Yeah, we got a weird little flurry down here.
Yeah, man, I woke up this morning, went to work, and it was like down in the teens. It was snowing. I'm like, what the hell happened? It was like in the 20s all day long. Like, I thought we were past all this. I know I keep saying that, but, welcome to Michigan, I guess.
What are you going to do?
Typical.
What? Absolutely. Man, there's been a lot of crazy things happening lately. Our heart goes out to the victims in the shooting in Nashville. But
amen to that.
Man, tragedy, absolute tragedy. So,
yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah, it is. It makes you think. Really makes you want to homeschool everybody. Makes you want to homeschool your kids.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. There's many reasons to want to homeschool these days.
Oh, you're not wrong. If you, what do you think? If you could add one class to the public school education system, what would you? I mean, they're lacking in many things, but what's?
Oh, yes, they are.
If you could add one, what would it be?
Oh man. Wow, that's tough. Okay, there's one specific thing comes to mind, and it's not a class. All right, follow me here. Some countries like let's say Israel that do mandatory military service type thing. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't recommend that because I don't believe in mandatory service like that, right? But what if, let's say, in between your junior and senior year of high school, you were required to go to a, 2-month summer camp, right? In which you're put on a balanced diet, you're made to go outdoors and do outdoor activities, you're made to push your body in ways that you didn't know you could, you're taught some basic survival techniques. You're taught some, things like this. I think that would be invaluable to the teenage psyche that we see today. I think that in itself would eliminate so much depression, so much technology addiction. So many of these problems that we have today could be 95% of them eliminated with something like that. What do you think?
Oh, that's interesting. So almost like a boot camp, if you will, like a 2-month-long boot camp.
Almost like a, not a military-esque boot camp, but you know what? If you don't go to this, you don't graduate, right? And we're gonna push you. You're gonna need to do stuff that makes you uncomfortable, right? It's yeah, almost like a mini boot camp.
That's really interesting. I like that you threw in the survivalist, aspect. But I really like that. I think that's a
Right.
good idea.
And then we're not talking about, living out in the Alaskan wilderness and fighting for survival, but you know what? Here's how you gather firewood and, build yourself a campfire to keep you warm at night. Stuff like this.
Sure.
Here's how you
Sure.
filter water. Here's how you harness the power of the sun to do different things.
That's really interesting. No, that's solid. Yeah, man. I was just thinking like a life skills class, but no, yours is way more in depth. I like that. I think we need to just
Yeah, like I
definitely
said, it's
prepare
not
kids
exactly
for.
a class.
Sure.
But let's
Sure.
make like a 2 month long program that it's a graduation requirement.
Yeah.
If you don't do it, you don't graduate. Sorry. I
Hmm.
really like that idea myself, especially as an alternative to something like mandatory military service, which I don't
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
I don't
think
know if
is
I'd be cool with mandatory military service. I mean, I
right.
respect
As
everybody that
as
served, but it's not for everybody.
oh,
So,
absolutely, yeah, and obviously a huge. The countries that do that, I think, do really well because of that, but that's just not America, right? That's
sure.
mandatory service isn't part of the American system, nor should
No,
it
and
be, in my
no,
opinion.
I agree with you. One of the things that I like is that we don't cherry pick. Like, well, this is working over there. Let's try to throw it in here. I like to.
Yeah,
If it's
right,
not broken,
right.
don't try to
But
fix it.
I think something like that attached to the high school system, I think that would be invaluable just depression rates.
Oh
I
my
think would
gosh,
plummet
absolutely,
with something like
absolutely.
that.
No,
But
physical activity is
detach
really
from
good
the
for.
yeah, get outdoors, get sun on your skin, get your face out of a computer screen or away from your phone, right?
Yeah,
Uh, Today we're gonna go hike up this hill 3 miles. And when we get up there, here's a sandwich, here's a bag of chips, and a bottle of water, and that's what we're eating today. If you can't make it, that's fine. You're gonna sit down right here, and somebody's gonna sit with you, and you don't. But this is what we're eating. This is what we're doing. You're not doing anything else. This is today's activity.
sure.
I think that type of just very basic level of human struggle goes a long ways to repair the type of damage that we've done to people these days.
Sure. Sure. I don't think that the damage is irreversible either. I think it can be. I think it just takes one
Oh,
strong
absolutely not.
generation to change things. That's all it is.
Sure, always does.
But
What did you have in
without
mind with one class?
oh, so I mean I was thinking like a life skills type class. Very similar to I would definitely include the survival the survivalist aspect. I would teach people how to grow their own food. I would teach people how to build their own shelters. I would want people to learn how to and not just the I don't want to say primitive things, but like because these are necessary, skills to have. But I
Basic
would also
self-sufficiency.
yeah, I mean, but it would be very all encompassing. I would want to put like auto repair in there,
Sure.
like how you and I met, you know what I mean? Like doing those auto mechanic
Right.
classes, like you need to have, and that's one thing I always respected about that, that school. So I'll give you a little short story. Don and I both, in our separate walks of life when we were children, both of us kind of were terrible at school. So we had to go to summer school. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it. We were. So we had to go to summer school. I don't know about him, but I went to summer school from like the summer after my 8th grade year all the way to the summer of my junior year. I didn't need to do it after I graduated. I already graduated, but I had to do it
Yeah, it
every year.
wasn't
And
my
I always
first
went
stint with
to
summer school.
that was mine too. That was mine too. And so we went to oh, you know what? No, I lied. That was my second year. Your first year was my second year. My
No,
first
no, no.
year I did.
I said that it wasn't my first stint with summer school.
Was it
Was
your
not
first
my
stint at
first
that
stint.
one facility though?
Oh yeah. I'd never gone there before or since actually. Because
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, our high school had just like I don't know what you call it, a training program where people went to regularly for specialty classes.
Oh,
Like
okay.
as like for your senior year, you could go over to this campus over here and do their specialty stuff, whatever they were doing. One of them
Oh,
happened to be
interesting.
automotives that we did.
No, for sure. So I would include that. Definitely, I would include automotive. I would include cooking. I would include growing your own food. But I would also throw in things like, you know, how to balance a checkbook, how to, budget correctly, how to, I mean, these really important things in life that we're just lacking in education. Like we're making sure that everyone knows, about, Ponce de Leon and, like your arithmetic and your algebra and your geometry. I don't know about you, and I'm sure a lot of you out there listening, if anyone's listening, you probably used geometry or trigonometry once or twice in your life. I have never used it. I'm an old man, and I've never, it's never been relevant in my life.
I actually use geometry fairly regularly, but
See, there you go. See,
that's me.
yeah.
But throw in some things like here's how you take care of chickens.
Absolutely.
In a day and age where a dozen eggs cost $6 a dozen.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you need to learn how to take care of these things.
Right.
It's one thing I always respected about the Amish. I don't know that I could go as deep as they go, but I do respect them.
For sure. I got a lot of Amish up here around me.
Oh, I bet.
Yep.
Back when I used to do the farmers markets, I was like set up next to a couple of the Amish families, and they were super cool, very nice people. But
we had Amish folk down there.
We did.
Really?
I don't know where they were coming from. I think he had said it was like
down there.
From like the west side of the state. They'd be vanned in. They'd have like one guy he's not Amish, but he's like their driver. So they would all pile into a van and
the Amish taxis. Yeah.
Right. Essentially, just a big Bible
No,
bus.
it's a thing. The Amish taxi. It's some guy with a 15-passenger van that his entire job is to. The Amish trust him, and so he drives They give him a phone call from the one phone in town that they're allowed to use, kind of thing, and they get a ride to wherever they need to go.
Man, yeah.
I see him around here all the time.
That's wild.
Yeah, we got horse and buggies driving through around here all the time. We got a lot of Amish around here.
Do you see a lot of them with the blinkers on the back?
Oh, yeah, they all have to.
Isn't that a contradiction to what they do, though? Isn't that still technology?
I mean, it's state law. Like, the police won't allow them to be on the roads otherwise. Like, they have to have the big orange triangle, and they have to have the blinkers, and they need to meet certain bare minimums in order to take their horse and buggy down the road. Just state law.
Well, that is fair. All right, folks. We're done rambling. I'm sure you guys are sitting back there
let's
thinking,
get to it, man. What do you
I
got
thought
for
we
me
were
today?
watching a podcast about the unexplainable, the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, not the Amish. Come on, man.
The things that don't pass the sniff test. All right. So today, folks, the sniff test. So today, folks, we are going to be talking about the Amityville Massacre, horror, whatever you want to call it. We've all seen the movie.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I know, right? Why not?
That's a big one, man. That's a bomb to drop.
It really is. There's a lot to unpack with this one. So we're going to be doing some jumping around, but out of this whole story that is really shrouded in controversy, whether it's all made up, whether it's just all fiction, and the family that lived there after the alleged, or not the alleged murders, the murders did happen, but after the murders,
that's not disputed.
Yeah, that's definitely not disputed. We'll get.
The guy is
into
in prison,
that, or is he? But stay tuned to find out whether or not he is still in prison. But But yeah, so it's the one person whose account I'm really excited to share with you folks today is that of Loraine Warren, the the late Loraine Warren. She passed away a few years back, but
Yeah, pretty
her and her
recently.
husband were paranormal investigators that went around the entire country. They went around to every single place that that could have possibly had paranormal activity, and they did their proper investigations. They're very highly respected in the paranormal community. So
Very much so, yeah.
so her account, I have a small snippet to play, and I'll get to that. But her account really, just really means a lot to this story, in my opinion. So bear with me, folks. And I don't have my glasses right now, but bear with me.
Are we going to
I'm
talk
gonna,
about these original murders?
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
That's how we set the scene. That's how this whole thing starts. So we're gonna start right
Right.
there. Okay. His
All
name.
right.
Okay. This is a report from the Rolling Stone in. Oh, it doesn't give me the exact year right now. I'm sorry, guys. But okay, so this is. So Ronald DeFoe was the. Hang on, I'm trying to find this, guys. I'm switching between like 4 different screens. I apologize.
It's not so easy,
Okay.
is it?
No, it's definitely not. This is my first time switching between a bunch of different screens on this big additional. We're growing, guys, and we're trying to, with your help, we will grow faster and further. So, long story short, 23-year-old Ronald DeFoe Jr. murdered 6 members of his family with a rifle while they slept in their beds at night. Amongst those killed were his parents, Ronald Sr. and Louise, along with his young brothers, Dawn, Allison, Mark, and John. There was no disputing whether or not he committed these murders. Okay? At first, he tried to. At first, DeFoe claimed that he had found their bodies. He even went out to a bar. He was drinking that night after he had done it and just started talking to people about how he had found them. Then he called the cops on himself. This guy's not quite there, okay? So, at first, DeFoe claimed that he had found their bodies after the murders and even blamed the mass killing on a hitman. But by the next day, he confessed his sins and admitted that it was him that had killed his entire family. The why behind his crimes, and that is the biggest question that I cannot find out why. The biggest question behind his crimes was never clear, as his story changed over the years. At first, he said he had heard voices. Later, he said other members of his family helped him do it. Many have tried to figure out themselves. Was DeFoe after his father's life insurance money? Was it simply a greedy son trying to make some money? Did he have a psychotic break? Did his history of drug use play a role? He was an avid, boozer, partier, drug user. Not saying
he was
that
a
alone
heroin.
makes somebody a murderer. Lord knows we've had our dabbles here and there, and for
Sure,
many decades.
but he was known to use heroin and LSD, I believe,
Yeah,
regularly.
never. Don't do that, kids. Don't do that.
Not good, kids. Just
or
say
was it?
no.
That's right. That's right, Nancy Reagan. Or was it something supernatural and unexplainable? But it was definitely a story that stuck with people. How a man could kill his entire family like that, and how he could do it alone without any of them hearing him, getting out of bed and fighting back. DeFoe was found guilty of the murders and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Okay? So, from there, the Lutz family moves in. The house goes up for sale.
Well, hold on, but
I'll
before we
circle
get
back
into
to
the Lutz
Ronald.
family too much. Okay, all right.
Oh yeah, I'm not done with Ronald. No. I'm not done with
Okay.
Ronald. Don't you worry. I'm trying to do it in order, in chronological order. So, the Lutz family ends up moving into the house that these murders occurred in. Okay. During the period in which the family was living at 112 Ocean Avenue, there was a demonologist, a vampirologist named Stephen Kaplan that was called in to investigate the house. Kaplan and the Lutzes had a falling out after Kaplan had said that he would expose everything that they had said as a fraud. Now, let me backtrack a little bit, folks, and let me tell you a little bit about what they saw and what was happening to them, okay? So the Lutz family moved in on December 18th, 1975, okay? Much of the DeFoe's family furniture was still in the house from the murder, okay? A lot of their original furniture was still in the house because it was included for an extra $400 as a part of the deal. It's really not that bad of a deal. A friend of George Lutz, I know, right? A friend of George Lutz learned about the history of the house and insisted that they had it blessed. There were 6 murders in the house, so he insisted that the families bring in a priest and have it blessed. Now, George Lutz, I apologize, was a non-practicing Methodist and had no experience of what this would entail. Kathy, his wife, was a non-practicing Catholic and explained the process. George knew of a Catholic priest named Father Ray who agreed to carry out the house blessing. Father Ray is also referred to as Father Mancuso for privacy reasons, okay? So Father Mancuso was a lawyer judge of the Catholic court and a psychotherapist who lived at the local Sacred Heart. He arrived to perform the blessing while George and Kathy were unpacking their belongings on the afternoon of December 18th, 1975. He went into the building to carry out the rites. When he flicked the first holy water and began to pray, he heard a masculine voice demand that he get out. When leaving the house, Father Mancuso did not mention this incident to either George or Kathy. On December 24th, 1975, Father Mancuso called George Lutz and advised him to stay out of the second-floor room where he had heard the mysterious voice, the former bedroom of Mark and John Matthew DeFoe, the children, that Kathy planned to use as a sewing room. But the call was cut short by static. By static. Sorry. So while the priest is on the phone warning him, do not go into this room up there, some static comes in and cuts him off. That's kind of creepy.
Convenient timing.
Very convenient. This is 1975. It's not like it's 1935. Phones work a lot better in 1975 than they did back then.
Sure.
Or than we might think. Sorry, I lost my place. Okay. Following his visit to the house, Father Mancuso allegedly developed a high fever and blisters on his hands, similar to stigmata. At first, George and Kathy experienced nothing unusual in the house, talking about their experiences subsequently. They reported that it was as if they were living in a different house. So, interestingly enough, they're both telling each other stories about how they like their new house, but the stories are seemingly different. You know what I mean? They're seemingly talking about a separate house, which is, I think that part is really interesting. Yeah, almost as if whatever is there is, changing their perception of what's actually going on. By mid-January 1976, I apologize. After another attempt at a house blessing by George and Kathy, they experienced what would turn out to be their final night in the house. The Lutzes declined to give a full account of the events that took place on that occasion, describing them as too frightening. After getting in touch with Father Mancuso, the Lutzes decided to take some belongings to Kathy's mother's house to in a nearby deer park. Or in nearby deer park, not in a deer park. Sorry.
It wasn't a park of deer?
Yeah, her parents were not deer. Almost said antelope.
The town of Deer Park.
Deer Park, New York. Sorry. If anyone's in New York, you guys can make fun of us as much as you want. Until they had sorted out the problems of the house, they claimed the phenomenon followed them there. The final scene of the Ansons book, the book that was written about their experiences in the Amityville house, they described a greenish black slime that was coming up the staircase towards them. Whew. I just watched Flubber today with my daughter, too. Sounds like Flubber.
Flubber.
Sorry, guys. Coming up the staircase towards them. On January 14th, 1976, George and Kathy Lutz, with their 3 children and their dog Harry, left 112 Ocean Avenue, leaving all their possessions behind. The next day, a mover arrived to remove the possessions, to send the Lutzes. He reported no paranormal phenomenon while inside the house. So, a couple things that is left out on this website that I recall from seeing interviews, or reading interviews rather, with the children of the Lutz family that were living in the house, that they experienced a lot. Like, there was one area of the house that was constantly attracted to with bugs, like infested with bugs. No matter what they would do, they get these black flies that would be like
there's swarms of flies, right?
Swarms of them all over just this one room, like one corner, one area of the room. And they couldn't figure out why. There was oh gosh, they said no matter what they tried to do. Now this is what I read in here. This wasn't one of the kids' accounts. No matter what they tried to do to heat the house, it was always freezing cold. They could not heat that house no matter what they tried to do, which is really saying something.
He had to keep that wood stove going constantly,
and apparently it didn't make much of a difference.
Right.
So
yeah,
that's a really interesting. Absolutely.
Another common theme you see in haunted locations is cold spots and just cold drafts and things like that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what they say. So there's been a lot of disputes over the accuracy of what's happened. A lot of people are probably screaming at the radio like, they're a bunch of frauds, they're lying. Now, you could say that, and, they have made money off of selling their story. There has been no other incidents of people living, in that house, because that house is still standing. The address has changed. It's no longer 112 Ocean Avenue. They were tired of having people, driving by the house. They said they've updated the house. It no longer looks anything like it used to, but no one has reported anything that's happened since. Now, this was a really interesting story that I wanted to circle back to about this. With whatever happened to Ronald DeFoe, the guy that killed these people? He said he got sentenced to prison. What happened to this lunatic? Okay.
He's still in prison, isn't he?
Let's see. So this is the Rolling Stone article that I started to read before, but I realized it would have been a huge spoiler. So,
okay.
Ronald DeFoe, the convicted murderer who killed 6 family members and inspired the ever-growing Amityville Horror franchise, died Friday, March 12th. The New York Times reports he was 69. DeFoe died in a hospital in Albany. It doesn't say. Does not say. While I'm reading this, you want to look that up while I'm reading this?
Let's say, what year was this article published? Never mind. You keep going. I'm going to
keep going. We'll tag team this. Okay, so DeFoe died in a hospital in Albany, New York. The New York State Department Correctional Facilities confirmed. He had been serving a sentence of 25 years to life at the Sullivan Correctional Facility in Fallsburg, New York, and had been taken to the hospital on February 2nd. Cause of death has not yet been announced, but will be determined by the Albany County coroner. In 1974, go ahead.
He died March 12th, 2021.
Oh, wow. Recently.
2 years ago, buddy. Holy cow. Almost.
Does it say how he died?
Almost to the day. Almost to the day.
Wow.
2 years and 1 week ago. It is. I know we're dating our episode, right? But as of recording today, right now, it is March 29th of 2023.
Does it say how he died?
Just over 2 years ago. Let me see here. I'm sure I can find it here.
All right, well, while you're looking for that, I'm going to keep reading. All right, so.
It says here, official cause of death has not been released to the public.
Still, wow. Isn't that something?
Interesting. I mean, I'm just looking at Wikipedia here, so, take that as you will.
So I'm going to let you guys get to know Ronald DeFoe just a little bit, the guy that inspired all of this with his heinous, horrible crime. So DeFoe was born into a generally well-to-do and religious family. Working well with his father at a car dealership in Brooklyn, DeFoe's relationship with his father, however, was reportedly strained, and the younger DeFoe all had a reputation for using drugs, drinking, and fighting. Following the murders, DeFoe reportedly went to a bar near his house and proclaimed that his parents had been shot, while he also reported the deaths to the police himself. So after his confession, DeFoe's 6-week trial focused mainly on why he carried out the murders. With DeFoe's court-appointed lawyer, this is a really interesting part, folks. With DeFoe's court-appointed lawyer, William Weber, mounting an insanity defense. In 1992, however, DeFoe claimed Weber had pursued the insanity defense against his wishes, and he'd done so to potentially drum up interest in books and film deals. That's what DeFoe claimed his lawyer did in 1992. He is quoted saying, "William Weber gave me no choice." This is what DeFoe had told the Times. "He told me I had to do this. He told me there would be a lot of money from book rights and a movie, and that he would have me out in a couple of years and I would come into all this money. The whole thing was a con, except for the crime." That's what William DeFoe said, but we take things as they are, okay? So
it wasn't William DeFoe, buddy.
Was not no relation to Willem DeFoe, not William. Willem DeFoe. But no relation to Willem DeFoe. But anyways, so here is the only opinion that I care about in this whole investigation. Because did the Lutz family make it up? Maybe. Is this whole thing nonsense trying to make money? Did William Weber really just try to mount this insanity plea because he had a buddy at Paramount or whatever studio that was going to make this picture and he was going to get a book deal? Maybe. But there's two people that would not have wasted their time, their energy, and their reputation by saying what they said without there being something to back it up. So before the Lutzes moved out, they called in paranormal investigators. Oh, I'm sorry, it might have been after they moved out, but irrelevant. Either it was while they were there or shortly after there. They were only there for 28 days. Ed and Loraine Warren, famed paranormal investigators, came in. They took a lot of pictures. They did their EMF readings. They did their due diligence and how they do their thing. The only physical evidence... Go ahead. What's that?
Now, to be fair, at this time, when Ed and Loraine Warren were brought in, they weren't famed demonologists and paranormal investigators at the time. They had a handful of cases under their belt, but they weren't widely renowned. This is what made them widely renowned. Correct?
Fair enough. Oh, I appreciate that interjection. I appreciate that. You probably know a little bit more about them than I do, but I'm a fan. So they snapped
definitely a fan. But as I understand it, this is the case that really made their names worthwhile, is their involvement in this case in particular, and obviously many others later on. But this is their big one that really put them on the map as far as, paranormal circles go.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I would love to do an entire, honestly, like an entire episode just on, Ed and Loraine Warren.
Yeah, and honestly that could be a 2 or 3 parter in itself,
Haha.
Because there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot. They did a lot of cases. They've been involved with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of them that I really want to dig deeper into the Annabelle one. That's a really interesting story. The movie doesn't do it justice. Yeah. It takes its own turn with it. When the real story is fascinating. The real story is creepy enough on its own. They could have kept it the real story and it would have been creepy. But
the doll itself is very non-creepy.
Yeah, and that's what makes it worse.
Raggedy Ann doll.
That's what makes it worse. So I'll share a little rabbit trail story. So when I was in high school, I did some acting with this this like independent film company. It was basically like just a small group of people, and we'd shoot these like guerrilla style movies. We just show up and shoot a couple scenes until we got kicked out. Right? He'd compile them, but we'd just make a whole bunch of crappy movies. But and he did this one I'll never forget. That was like, it was just a crappy one. We were in high school. He just set up the camera and like did different still frame shots. But he made a teddy bear of the murderer, gave him like a little knife, and just still frame shot him the whole way up. And he did it a good job. Set the music and everything. And like, you believe that teddy bear was about to murder you, and then look super innocent afterwards. So
it's like that Mark Wahlberg movie.
Yeah, but way before then. And it wasn't, this was back in, jeez. I'm going to really date myself here, so thank you. This was back in like, maybe 1999, 2000, like.
All right, old timer.
This was a long time ago. So, yeah. But anyways.
Turn of the century stuff.
That's right. We had to record it on a VHS recorder, but no. But
yeah.
That's right.
Get your 8-tracks out, kids.
So when Ed and Loraine Warren were on site and they were taking their pictures, the only thing, and we're gonna have this picture up on our site for you guys, but they got one picture that appeared to be one of the boys that was murdered, one of the DeFoe children that were murdered. That was kind of peering from behind a door. That was the only physical evidence that they had. But I'm going to see if this works, and I'm going to play a clip for you folks, okay? I'm going to show you, instead of just trying to terribly read it to you, I'm going to show you what Loraine Warren actually had to say in 2005 about her exact experience.
All right.
So let's see what she has to say.
We went there that day, and I took a relic, a Padre Pio, in the house with me. A relic that came in the mail that day. That very day, it came in the mail. And I asked him to help me with discernment. I didn't know that house was demonic. I didn't know anything about it. I couldn't speculate that the house was haunted in any way, shape, or form. Just that we were called to investigate why one family were all murdered, another family moved in and fled. So Channel 5 News said, the viewers have a right to know what happened. That's why we went to the house.
So what do you think really actually took place in the house? Do you have any opinions on what?
Evil. It's the personification of evil. How evil can personify itself. How it can be attracted in certain situations.
So when Loraine was talking about it being just pure evil, there's no other way to describe it, and her account of it has to mean something. You know what I mean? She's not going to throw those words out, whether she was a famed, demonologist and paranormal investigator beforehand or afterwards. It's she's still putting her reputation on the line now. Almost 20 years ago at this point, 2005.
Was until up a couple of years ago when she died. Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think it was? Do you think she did it, or she did it? Jeez. Do you think that it was all made up? Do you think that it was? What do you think?
As far as the Lutz family is concerned, I don't know, man. It's hard to say. There are a lot of extraordinary claims that they're making here. I mean, this isn't a typical, ghost sighting. I saw an apparition that peeked around a door and then it was gone type stuff. They were talking about black ooze running down the stairs and coming out of the walls, and there was I think this one actually got debunked as a cat, but something about one of the daughters regularly saw this red-eyed pig outside of her window type thing. Yeah, I think that actually got later debunked as the neighbor's cat because it literally had the same name or something like that. I don't have all these details at hand, but things like that. But one of the most fascinating parts of this story is actually about the original murders themselves. Now, Ron Jr. was supposed to have shot all 6 members of his family with this, I believe it was a .35 caliber rifle, and yet every single member of his family was shot lying face down in bed. So he shot his father, his mother, 3 of his brothers, and his sister without one of them ever getting out of bed. They were all in their beds. They were all shot in their beds. They were all laying face down in their beds when they were shot. As far as we know, none of them were drugged. That's another thing about Ron Jr. He's changed his story a dozen times since he's been in prison. And he gave one account in which he gave them all a bunch of barbiturates, which would, explain why none of them woke up. Except none of that was found in their bodies at the time. He gave another account where he planned it all with his sister Dawn. But, there's no way to substantiate that either. So, I mean, he's changed his story a dozen times. So you can't take any one of them as credible.
That's true.
There were never any drugs found in their system. How is it that not one member of the family woke up and at least made it out into the hallway before they were killed? They were all killed in their beds. If we're talking about one guy doing the killings here, he didn't shoot them all at the exact same moment. Right? In all these different rooms of the house. So how does that happen? None of the neighbors heard any of the gunshots. We're not talking about a quiet. There's no silencers. There's no way to explain the fact that you didn't hear this rifle from a half a mile away, let alone across the street.
Right. Yeah, this wasn't a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. This was a house in a neighborhood.
No, we're talking about Long Island.
Yeah. No,
Nobody ever heard any gunshots. None of the family members woke up out of their bed. There's something very strange about that.
There is. One of those questions we'll probably never have an answer to, but that's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up. One thing that I did want to add to the story that gives a little bit more credibility to the Lutz family is that. All right, so right here, I have it right here. I'll just read directly. So it says, George Lutz maintains that the events in the book were, as he quotes, mostly true. I'm sure there were some exaggerations here and there. They were trying to sell a book. In June 1979...
You said I'm sorry.
Okay.
You said that the Lutz families made money off of this story over the years, yeah?
Yeah, it's reported that they made around $300,000 off of, in total off of their, the story.
Okay, I mean, grand scheme of things, that's not a lot of money over the course of,
Sure.
What, 50 years, almost 50 years at this point.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
I
So
mean,
this is...
let's say in 1980, yeah, that's a lot of money. I mean, it's not a lot of money today for, going through all that, but
Sure.
I would think if they were doing this as a money-making venture, right? We're gonna become millionaires off of their faking this ghost story. They would have made more than $300,000 off of a story that's become this big. We're talking about the Amityville Horror. There's been 17 different movies made off of this fucking story.
No, that's a really good point, dude. That's a really good point.
This story really has been beaten to death in every which way you can imagine. Everything from, wasn't Ryan Reynolds in one of these movies?
I think he was. That was like the more recent one. I think Josh Brolin was in the old one.
So consider that Ryan Reynolds has made more money off of the Amityville story than the people who, endured it, supposedly.
Yeah.
Something to take into consideration.
That's got to be a punch in the stomach. So, hang on. In June 1979, George and Kathy Lutz took a polygraph test relating to their experiences at the house. The polygraph tests were performed by Chris Gugas, it's the last name for you, and Michael Rice, who at the time were reportedly among the top 5 polygraph experts in America. The results, in Rice's opinion, did not indicate lying. It's a very interesting, I don't know, it's an interesting point to add that they were able to pass a polygraph test.
Interesting.
You
Now,
know?
polygraph tests aren't admissible in court for a reason.
That's true.
You know? But when you're talking about the one of the top 5 polygraph administrators in the country, you know,
it's
something to take into account.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean nothing.
No, it definitely doesn't mean nothing. But yeah, it's a fascinating story. I'm curious, folks. What do you think? Do you think it was a hoax? Do you think it was a horror?
Yeah, let us know in the comments, guys. What's happening here? These what happened with Ron DeFoe? Was he just a heroin addict, or was he possessed by the devil? Because all right, we didn't talk about this at all. One of Ron's original stories, not like I said, he changed his story over and over and over again. But early on, he was saying that he was regularly seeing this black mass in the house that was always telling him, do it, kill them all, type thing. Was this some sort of was he possessed by a demon? Was he just a heroin addict who, lost his mind? It's also said that he was abused by his father, right? And he also may have had traumatic brain injuries. So was that causing hallucinations? Was this causing his, violent outbursts? There's lots of different possibilities, lots of different roads to go down here.
Yeah.
And then you bring in the Lutz family, and that's a whole nother aspect. If the case is that Ron was just had a traumatic brain injury and was abused by his father and just snapped one day and murdered his family, then that kind of, at least in a large extent, throws out the claims from the Lutz family, right? That there's all this crazy paranormal demonic activity going on. Because it was really just a guy that had a broken brain. But if it wasn't a guy that had a broken brain, if there was something darker going on here, then there's something more.
That's a really good point. So
let us know in the comments, folks. What do you think? What was going on?
And also, folks, I'm always curious. I know Don is as well. I'm always curious to know what paranormal experiences you have had. Let us know in the comments. And, like one of these days, like Don had said, we might have you on the show. If you got a story good enough to, to make it onto the show, we'd love to have you. So, yeah, folks, let us know in the comments.
We're good at this, dude. We're professional podcasters.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know how much you hate us. Let us know how much we got the story wrong. And let us know how you would do it better.
Yeah, definitely. You know what? Let us know about Ed and Loraine Warren. What you think about them? We'll get into them in a later episode, because I do want to do a deep dive into them and their credibility, their credibility with the Catholic Church, right?
Yeah.
The many different cases that they were brought in on. They are well known in the paranormal world. They are the OGs, as it were, when it comes to especially demonic activity.
Absolutely.
So we'll get into that in a later episode. But let us know what you think. I want to hear about it.
Absolutely.
So what do you think, buddy? What's going on with the Lutz family? What do you think's happening in that house?
Oh, I honestly think that they absolutely experienced something horribly demonic. There was a lot of things that, like, you had mentioned a few things that have been like debunked over the years, and there was a lot of holes that are poked in things. But when something happens that's completely unexplainable, it's easy to poke holes in it and call it, swamp gas, or call it whatever you want to call it. But it's
Swamp gas.
swamp gas. But I mean, it could be anything. That's what people who don't want to believe that paranormal things exist will try to explain it away in any way possible. There was this one
Absolutely.
room. There was this one room that was in like the bottom of the basement. That was like this. It was all red. It's one small room that they had reported that it was held for this Native American tribe. I forget what tribe it was. I'm not even going to try to remember because I'll probably insult someone and butcher it. But seriously, no, I'm not going to do that. But they ended up saying, like, they had a spokesman from them saying that, like, no, that never happened there. That's not a thing. But they said, but the claim was that Native Americans that lived in that area was where they would leave their mentally ill, leave their sick, leave their people in that area.
Sure.
But there's a lot of things that are unexplainable. You can't explain why these apparitions would form, or people would see things. And there's a report of Ed Lutz. No, I'm sorry, not Ed Lutz. I'm sorry, I was confusing the two. Where George Lutz was, he would wake up every single day or morning at 3:15 a.m., which is the exact time of the murders. And he said one time when he woke up at 3:15 in the morning, he saw his wife levitating in bed. So there was a lot of unexplainable things that was just happening all the fucking time.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yep.
So
yeah, that was
I
a
don't know.
wild bit of the story.
I really think it did happen to them. That's what I think. I think that it happened to them the way that they said it. Like you said, they didn't make a ton of money off this thing. It's not like they went on to star in the movie themselves and be directors, and it's just somebody that had a crazy thing happen to them, and they told enough people, and somebody went on and wrote books and made movies, and they made a lot of money off of their story. But the Lutzes didn't.
Yeah, I'd like to do a deeper dive and see what they said, in their initial reports way back then, and how they may or may not differ from, 10 years later. Maybe some things got embellished, some things were toss a little flair on it to, help bring in those dollars. But that doesn't mean that the initial claims were anything but genuine.
Sure. And you know what, folks? Stick around.
That's always a possibility.
If you folks stick around and you're a Patreon member, in the bonus episode tonight, we are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the later stories of the Lutz family to see if their stories have changed at all. So if you are a Patreon member, this will be a nice treat for you. And if you're not, this will be a reason to be one.
All right, even better, because this is all news to me. Like I said, I did not do a deep dive on Amityville. This is your show, buddy.
Oh man,
so I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
That's why it's so choppy and crappy.
Hey, it's not easy being on that end, is it?
It's not easy being green, man.
Oh man.
Well,
all right. So I mean, but before we wrap up here, we got a few more. We got a little bit to kill here. So yeah, I do think that. I mean, obviously the murders happened. That's not.
Yeah,
even
that's
in
not.
dispute.
Yeah. Yep.
What caused Ron to commit these murders? I mean, that's really anybody's guess. Was it, a demonic entity, or was it, just he was a broken guy? I mean, that's anybody's guess. It's hard to tell. Given the reports from the Lutz family, assuming that they didn't make the whole thing up, that obviously lends credibility to the fact that Ron himself was under some sort of demonic possession. What makes me question that is there hasn't been any reports of anything in this house since, has there?
No. Not a thing since.
So it's almost like after the Lutz family. Now, maybe there wasn't and never got reported. It didn't get the publicity. That's all possible too, I suppose. But we don't know of anything else that's ever happened, which, I mean, take that as you will. If this is something, I know I harp on you all the time, Bruce, that because, everything's a demon. This is very demonic, It's not that I don't think demons are a thing. I think they absolutely are. And that everything about this case screams demonic activity.
100%.
So I'm with you on this one. This is very demonic. There's something darker happening here than just the ghost of Harvey that we talked about last week.
Yeah, right.
Who just likes to poke people and stare at girls in bikinis.
Right.
Peek around the bushes at the pool. There's something darker and more evil going on here than something that simple. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
It really is.
It is, for all of the cases that we've talked about thus far, this is the one that I can point to and say, that seems demonic to me. This seems like demonic activity.
I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. No other way to explain it. It seems absolutely demonic.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on this one.
What do you think, folks?
I can point to a demon in this case.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hollywood never really gets it right, but, the original story might be better than fiction, or stranger than fiction.
Oh, it usually is. It usually is.
Oh, that's
so I mean,
true.
I don't know how in depth you are in demonology in the first place. Is there anything you could point to specifically that you think this might be as far as demons go, other than just demon in general?
Right. No, I don't know that I could even call, like, if you're asking if I could call out like a specific demon in this, which I don't think you are. I mean, I definitely couldn't, but, why they would do it, or, like what would be the purpose, I couldn't tell you. We don't know what Ronald DeFoe Jr. was into. I mean, we know that he was a heavy drug user. We know he dabbled in psychedelics. We know he was a heroin user plus a psychedelic user. There was a lot of things that could have made him lose his mind.
Right.
In the bonus episode, we'll get into a little bit more about the effects of LSD. That's something that our paid listeners will get to hear some stories on that. But I will say it can definitely, I think you could definitely open up some spiritual doors by by weakening that spiritual wall that separates us from them. And when we do things to open up our minds and see things that we aren't necessarily supposed to see, might not always be, a good thing. It might not always be the glowing sunshine and rainbows. It might be something darker on the other side, especially if you're somebody that already has a dark intent. If you're somebody that's already got brain damage, or somebody that's already got, hatred in his heart towards his family or his dad or whatever, starts taking that kind of stuff, as well as heroin, which is a major like depressant and downer. You take the two of those together, that spiritual wall could have been weakened to the point that he was easily possessed. All
right, so that's an interesting thought you bring up. Especially things like LSD, which as opening a spiritual doorway, do you think that it's possible that his drug use invited in this demonic activity that
Sure.
caused him to murder his entire family?
Sure. No, I'm not saying
do you think
everyone that
I guess you think that that's the likely scenario here.
I don't know that it's the likely scenario, but I think that it's an explainable scenario. You know what I mean? I don't know that any of this is like, yeah, it's likely that he, you know what I mean? Like, I think this is all just off the wall and bonkers stuff.
Yeah,
but,
we're obviously outside the realm of science here.
Right, right. But, if you've done LSD, if you've done these kind of things before and you're already, somebody that's a dark-hearted person, man, like, you make yourself an easy vessel. And, if these demons were able to levitate, Mrs. Lutz in the middle of the night and do these crazy things, who's to say that that demon or whatever was helping him that night wasn't able to flip his people over while he was, making these shots? Or, we can't look at the story of what happened to the Lutz and say, like, look at all the power that these demons have, and then look at the exact same house with the DeFoe family and think that he had to have done it all on his own.
It makes me wonder about the Lutz family. What tied them in to be susceptible to this? It's like I understand what made Ron Jr., Butch, susceptible to this with his drug use and his he had money problems. He actually staged a robbery at his family's car dealership, to get himself some money to feed his drug habit type thing. Like, this is a guy wrapped up in all kinds of problems, right? And people that are wrapped up in all kinds of problems are, more susceptible to this type of activity, supposedly, right?
Sure.
What was it about the Lutz family that made them susceptible to this ongoing activity?
That's such a good question, dude. The only thing that I can think of is that they moved in so quickly after whatever was there was settled into the house. We don't know how long
was it.
What, that they moved in after the murders?
Yeah. Do we know that?
You know what? Let me look that up, buddy. I'm not 100% sure. So November of 1974 is when Ronald DeFoe killed. Okay.
Okay.
December 1975 is when the Lutz moved in. So 13 months later.
Just over a year. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
Not very long. It would stand to reason that whatever entities or entities were in that building would have still been
exactly
there.
2 weeks later, but not 10 years down the road either.
So. Right, but and it was empty the whole time. Nobody else was living there. Nothing else was happening there. Still had their furniture in there, from the murders.
$400 for the furniture. Now, what were they thinking keeping that furniture?
Right. But you got to think, they probably didn't keep the beds.
I don't know. Did they?
I don't know, but
I don't know if they did or didn't.
That's super dark. But, maybe that's why they got punished, is because they kept the beds.
Right. You're gonna sleep on the bed where the entire family was murdered.
Yeah. No, I'm good on that.
I mean, several beds.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But remember, the Lutzes did have a lot of priests
in that place.
Right. No, 100%. The Lutzes did have, a couple different priests come in and try to bless the house. So it's very possible that one of them
burns on his hands for trying to bless the house.
Sure did.
I'd like to read a little bit more about that priest and his account.
Father Mancuso. We'll be getting into him more on the bonus episode as well, because they're actually, we can talk about him right now. Not a whole lot. We can talk about him right now if you want. He doesn't have a whole lot.
Yeah,
But here's the discrepancies.
Give me a couple minutes.
So the role of Father Mancuso in the book and the story has been given considerable attention during the course of the lawsuits surrounding the case in the late 1970s. Father Mancuso stated in an affidavit that his only contact with the Lutzes concerning the matter had been over telephone. The other accounts say that Father Mancuso did visit the house but experienced nothing unusual there. In 1979, Father Mancuso, appearing in silhouette, described his experience while blessing the Amityville house during an interview for the television show In Search Of. In the interview, Father Mancuso makes it clear that he did in fact enter the home and that he was slapped by an invisible force and told to get out by a disembodied voice.
Right.
So, you know.
Now, his real name is not Mancuso, right?
No,
that's
it is not. That is a pseudonym.
Right.
Real name is Father Pecoria. Pecoraro. I don't know.
Yeah, that helps.
Not at all. Not at all.
I would definitely like to hear more about his account. I feel like he could be a major linchpin on in this story.
Well, for sure, but as you can see what I just read, he's not given a lot of interviews. The only interview he gave, he had to appear through silhouette.
Yeah,
so
and I wonder why that is.
So an interesting thing I want to add is
when he's giving this account at the time, you're talking about a period in time in which the Catholic Church doesn't talk about exorcisms. They don't talk about demonology. They don't do any of this stuff. The Catholic Church in the last, 10 years or so has actually opened up about that stuff a whole lot more than they ever have in the past.
Oh, for sure. No, there's priests that'll go online talking about it.
Yeah, so I would wonder if maybe now, I don't even know if this guy's still around.
Right.
But if he was, or maybe he has a written account somewhere that might be accessible some way, but you're probably going to need to get into the Vatican archives for that one. So good luck with that.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I would be really interested to read about his account or hear interviews from him talking candidly about it.
So an interesting point that I would like to add before we close this part is okay. So William Weber. Or Weber. I don't know. It's Weber. Could be Weber. I don't know. But so in May of 1977, George and Kathy Lutz filed a lawsuit against William Weber. And remember, he was the defense lawyer for Ronald DeFoe. Paul Hoffman, who is a writer working on the accounts and the hauntings. Bernard Burton and Frederick Mars, who were both alleged clairvoyants who had examined the house, along with Good Housekeeping magazine and the New York Sunday News and the Hearst Corporation. The Lutzes allegedly misappropriated the names for trade purposes, invasion of privacy, and mental distress. The claims against the news corporations were dropped, and the remainder of the lawsuit was heard by Brooklyn U.S. District Court Judge. I don't say the judge's name. But in September 1979, the judge dismissed the Lutz's claims. In the September 17th, 1979 issue of People magazine, William Weber wrote, quote, "I know this book is a hoax. We created this horror story over many bottles of wine." End quote. He was referring to a meeting that Weber is said to have had taken place with George and Kathy Lutz, during which they discussed what would later become the outline of the book. The judge also expressed concern about the conduct of William Weber and Bernard Burton relating to the affair, stating, this is a quote from the judge, "There is very serious ethical question when lawyers become literary agents."
There absolutely is. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. It was the Lutz family that was suing?
Yeah, that sued William Weber.
On what charges, though?
The Lutz's alleged misappropriation of names for trade purposes and invasion of privacy and mental distress.
So they were alleging that
everyone was using their
this
names.
lawyer was profiting off of their name.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Given that information, I'd like to do a deeper dive onto them and who made what money from where. My conspiracy mind wants to go to, okay, maybe the Catholic Church paid off this lawyer to say that it was all a hoax so that this all gets swept under the rug. Now, I literally just pulled all of that out of my asshole and I have nothing to substantiate that, but that's where my head jumps to. So,
100%.
Like I said, that's something worth investigating. I'm not going to make those kinds of claims. I don't make baseless claims. I look for information. So I would like to go find that information. That would be interesting.
Very, very, very interesting.
It's good stuff, man. I like it.
This was a fun
I like
one.
it. Anyway,
anything
folks,
you want to add?
I got nothing, man. I'm looking forward to getting to what you got for me in the bonus.
Oh, absolutely, buddy.
Because I want to hear more about this shit.
No, we got some more to dive into.
So, folks, smash that like button, subscribe, leave a comment, review. You can watch us on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify. Don't just follow us on one. Follow us on all of them. Make sure you always get the episode and you get it 17 different times. You want to listen to, you're not big on watching, you just want to listen to us. Find us anywhere you can find a podcast, man. Castbox, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, you name it, we're there. We're on all of them. If we're not there, let me know. I'll make sure we get there.
That's right.
Easy as that. You want to hear the rest of this episode, all this other crazy bullshit we're going to get into? Slide on over to Patreon. Sign up for the price of a coffee. You can get all of our bonus content, everything we've made thus far, everything we're going to make from now on, all for the price of a coffee, folks. Come sign up, show us some support, show us some love. That way, one of these days we'll be able to quit our day jobs and actually do these kind of deep dives. We can find some of these priests and have them on and talk to them. We'll be able to get Graham Hancock on and talk to him about some ancient cultures and shit. We'll be able to talk to all of these people that we want to interview.
Jordan Peterson.
I'm not quite sure how Jordan Peterson fits into the conspiracy world, but I'd love to talk to Jordan Peterson.
He doesn't, but I just want to talk to him. No.
I'd love to talk to Jordan Peterson for a whole lot of reasons that don't involve paranormal shit.
That don't have anything to do with Bigfoot. Yeah, I know. I get that.
Right. But hey, maybe we'll be able to interview Ron Moorhead one of these days.
Who knows? Jordan Peterson might have very strong opinions on the Loch Ness Monster. I don't know.
I bet he does, and probably none that we want to hear. Just saying. I don't think he's going to buy either one of our bullshit. But that's cool.
Oh,
that's cool. I still want to talk to him.
I know, me too.
From him. Hey, you know what? You know who else I want to hear from?
Who's that?
You at home. I want to hear from you. Leave those comments, reviews. You got an awesome story that you can't explain, or maybe can explain. Let me know. Give us the story. We might even have you on. We'll talk all about it, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We would love to have you on. We would love to meet the people that are actually listening, because there's a few of you that are actually listening, and we love you. Thank you.
Yeah, there's more than a couple at this point.
We love you guys. Thank you. We love all of you. From all of us here in the Swamp Gas, all of us here inside the Swamp Gas, we love you and love each other. We'll see you next time. Have a great week, guys.